asking myself this question. Do I like cozy fantasy? And honestly, I don't know. Cozy fantasy has become so popular here on BookTube, and I don't even know if I like it. Mostly because I have not read that many cozy fantasies to try. I read one earlier this year that I did DNF, but it certainly wasn't a popular title, and it very much could have been a book thing, not a genre thing. Or it could be a genre thing, not a book thing. And I really want to find out because these cozy fantasies are so popular and I want to be a part of loving them, but I just don't know if it's a genre for me. I tend to like high stakes in my fantasy, so that makes me a bit nervous. But one of my favorite books of the year, which is Psalm for the Wild-Built and A Prayer for a Crown Shy, are cozy sci-fis. So that gives me hope that I may like cozy. We need to decide. So in this video, I am teaming up with Kirsty to decide just this. Kirsty has a channel called K-Beth Bookish. It is linked down below. Please go check out Kirsty's video. Give it some love, give it some recognition because Kirsty's great. We decided to, instead of reading just cozy together, read the same cozy fantasies and decide if we like cozy. We decided to go with a very popular title and a rather newish title to test this hypothesis. The popular title is the one that I'm going to start with, and that is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I don't think you can think cozy fantasy and not think Legends and Lattes, and I need to read this book. Today, I actually have a free afternoon to go read at the coffee shop, and I think that is the perfect place to read Legends and Lattes. Get a cozy drink, get in a nice chair, sit with my Kindle and my audio and immersion read Legends and Lattes, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So come with me, let's grab the Kindle, let's get in the car, let's go get a coffee, let's sit down and see if I like Legends and Lattes. Because I feel like if I don't like Legends and Lattes, it's just the genre isn't for me because it is such a well-loved book. It is now the next day, and I did not vlog me updating you at the coffee shop. I'm okay to film out in public, like B-roll, but I have not graduated to the comfortability to actually like talk to a camera out in public. Not quite there yet. Plus, it was kind of loud, so it would have been hard to really update you anyway. For the first, I would say 15-20%, I wasn't so sure about this book. I wasn't 100% bought in because I was still trying to get my idea of what this was. Who were the characters? Who was everybody? What were they doing? I was figuring it out. Not that it was confusing. It's a very simple story, but I was still trying to find my place in the story. However, I'm a bit further than that now. I am currently on 54% of this book. And you know what? I'm really liking it. I'm really, really liking this story. What I think cozy fantasy needs to do for me to like it is have characters that I can fully obsess over. And this book has those. We have Viv, who used to be some sort of assassin or in a group of like thieves and assassins, who has decided to change her life and start a coffee shop. Now, Viv does do that with some secrets from her past life that we're starting to unpack now. But the first part of this book is really just them trying to figure out how to run a coffee shop in a town that has never heard of coffee. Viv's an orc and does not really have skills necessarily that will lead her to being a good business owner. So luckily, she does kind of bring in characters that will help her. We have Cal, who is a carpenter and helps build the structure. We have Tandri, who is a succubus and who helps sell things and brings kind of a business-sided mind to the business. We have Thimble, who I absolutely love, who is our baker. Thimble. I love coffee and I love baking. So there's a couple of things in this book that definitely keep my attention because I do enjoy those products. And I do love the way everyone talks about coffee, trying to figure out what it is. Like the bean water, they're very confused about it. It's so cute. The characters are great. And the more I get to meet the characters and get to know the characters, the more I get bought into the story. And since cozy fantasy is lower on plot, I do need good characters. I need the characters to be something that I fall in love with. Similarly to Song for the Wild Built, where I fell in love with the characters and they could just walk around town and do literally nothing and I would be okay with it. That's how I feel about Viv. I really love Tandri. Tandri is probably up there with my top favorite characters as well as Thimble. But I do also love Cal and Viv, and there's a lot of characters that I do really enjoy in this book. And I'm really excited to keep going with it and keep reading. I think it's really interesting that the audiobook is narrated by the author. I love that. I really do love that. And he's actually a very good narrator. Not every author would be a good narrator, but Travis Baldree does a great job. So would recommend both of these based off the 54% that I've read. I'm going to go finish this up though, and I'll let you know my final thoughts when I'm done. Okay, Legends and Lattes was absolutely adorable. It's so cute. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really love these characters. The characters are the reason that I adore this book so much. The plot doesn't really give you much, but that's because it is a cozy, and I think cozies really are a place for good character work. And that is definitely what you get here. I did really love this coffee shop though. I loved Thimble. I said all that in my last update, so I won't go too in depth with that. One thing that I really found throughout the book is we did have somewhat of a found family vibe with these characters. And all these characters showed up gradually. First there was Viv, and then there was Tandri, and then someone else came, and someone else came. And everyone seemed to arrive at this coffee shop at the exact moment that they needed to be there. At the exact moment where that person and what they needed lined up with what the cafe needed. And I just loved the kind of fate about it. And that is somewhat explained in the book, but I really think that it was more just how life brings to you what you need when you need it. And that was the part of the book that I really appreciated the most. There's a little bit of a romance in here, and I did enjoy that very much as well. It's very small. It's very much a side note, but it is so sweet. But 4 stars for Legends and Lattes is a wonderful first start in finding out if I can love cozy fantasy, because a 4-star rating is still a fabulous rating. It's a great rating for a cozy fantasy for me. So we are winning so far with this vlog. The last book I'm going to be reading in this vlog is The Honey Witch. This one I actually have the NetGalley arc of. I requested this arc thinking it was regular fantasy, not cozy, and because the cover really just got my attention. This one also has a sapphic romance in it, which definitely also piqued my interest. I have to read another book for book club starting tonight. I need to read The Au Pair Affair, but I'm going to jump into The Honey Witch pretty much right after that. So I will chat with you in a few days once I've had time to read that book and then jump into The Honey Witch and have read a little bit so I have something to say to you about it. So let's chat about The Honey Witch for a second. I am now currently, I think 40% through this book. I'm going to wake up the Kindle and double check, but I think that's where I'm at. Yes, 39%, 40%. I'm just about to start chapter 15, and I have a lot that I want to discuss with you about this book. So in this book, we follow Marigold, and Marigold has always kind of felt outside of her family and outside of conventional society norms. We meet her as she's going to this ball. Her mother wants her to get married. She's kind of considered older to be getting married. It's odd that she hasn't already married. They've already launched her sister into society, and normally you don't launch the younger sister until the older one is married. But Marigold really has no interest in that. She does not want to get married. She feels like her life is bringing her in a different direction. She feels drawn to the outside, drawn to the moon, drawn to the plants. She also is seeing spirits, but she's not able to talk about that with anyone because her family doesn't believe her. Nobody would believe her. They'd think she had lost her mind. So she keeps that all to herself. She does go to this ball. She gets away early and goes out to this field and meets with her spirits under the full moon. When she returns, her grandmother is at the house saying, we have to tell Marigold the truth to her mother. And we find out that her mother has basically not told Marigold her family history. Her grandmother's a witch, her mother was a witch, but Marigold is showing those powers and her mother has kind of kept them from her. For her own safety, her mother thinks. Her mother turned away from her powers because she found her father and decided to go for love, because we find out the honey witch cannot have a true love. The way you keep your powers is to not have a true love. And if you do have true love, you lose your powers. Her grandmother is starting to get older and starting to wear down and needs help back on the island where they're from, keeping the island safe from the ash witches. Marigold decides that this is clearly what her life has been bringing her towards, and she goes with her grandmother to this island and starts helping the people of this island with her grandmother. Now, a lot of the work they do on the island is medical. Not all, but some of it is helping women with pregnancies and various things of that nature. So I do want to say, check the triggers. There is a trigger warning at the start of this book. You know, I love a book that puts a trigger warning at the start. I love that. So there is triggers for miscarriage, possible miscarriage, infertility. There's triggers for a lot of things. So please check that if you're going into this book. The first thing that got me in this book was the writing. I've already highlighted a couple of quotes in my Kindle because the writing, especially at the beginning of the book, I don't find it's necessarily through the entire thing. But when Marigold is just speaking of how she feels different from society and all the things that she was saying and how she was putting it, I was like, this is lovely. This is top tier. I'm enjoying this so much. I do love a feminist book. So there's a lot of things about this book that definitely screams feminism, plant magic. I love plant magic, and this has that. So that's great. It is plant magic in a way, but there is also a bit with bees. That's why they're the honey witches. So they can get the bees to collect the honey from specific plants to make specific types of honey based off the nectar of the plants they take it from. So they can kind of like commune with the bees. It's very interesting. And they also see these spirits that I told you about that Marigold was seeing called Lanvatir. I think that's what they're called. And they are basically these animal spirits that kind of see over different parts of the world and now on the island where they're from. And if there's something wrong with the spirit, you know there's something wrong with the land that you as the honey witch have to go fix. Now we are on the island. We are doing the honey magic. Marigold re-meets an old friend that she knew as a child. And he is a friend named Lottie. And Lottie is not buying into magic. She thinks magic is a farce. She's very much a skeptic. She's like, I don't need any of that. But there is immediately a connection between Marigold and Lottie. So I think this is where the sapphic romance comes into this book, because I did know there is a sapphic romance. Haven't seen it yet. They're still getting to know each other. But they're definitely coming at magic from two very different sides. One who experiences magic and one who doesn't believe in it. And I will say, Lottie is going to be a tough nut to crack. She's going to be a tough nut because she is very standoffish and does not let her guard down easy. I'm sure we'll find out more about Lottie and why she has so many walls as we go through the book. But I do like all the characters in this book. I like the premise. I like what's going on. There's some stakes around the healing part of this book, but also around the ash witches, because remember, they have to protect the island from the ash witches. I haven't really seen the ash witches yet, but they're definitely in the background. This kind of menacing situation in the back that I feel like will probably rear its head in the second half of this book. We shall see. Do not know if that's the case, but that's kind of my thought process at this point in time. I'm going to continue reading this afternoon and dive in because I need to know the conclusion of this story. I do think this proves that I do really like cozy fantasy. Obviously, I'm not going to like every cozy fantasy. I don't love every book in every genre. Every book is different to each person. But I think we can see that the genre in and of itself definitely can work for me, which was the entire point of this project. So last night I finished The Honey Witch, and this book is just so special for me. I adored this book. I will say, in the middle bit, it might have dragged a tiny, tiny bit. I can see that. I can understand that. I am going to overlook that because the rest of this book is just so fantastic. This is a debut author, and I cannot wait to read more of what Sydney Shields has in store. This book and this love story in this book almost felt like a fairy tale to me. It was this like faded love that is being hindered by a curse, and they can't really be together because of this curse. Because when she's the Honey Witch, she can't have a soulmate. So it's making this impossible to be the love story that it should have been. And it feels so doomed. And your heart is just pulled into all these different directions for these people. And this like faded but doomed love really gave me that fairy tale feel. There were so many moments in this book, especially in the last 30%. The last 30% of this book, whoo! Lots happens, and I was just welling with tears. I was giggling. I went through every emotion in the book. The quotes in this book, you know I love a good lyrical, quotey writing. I would not necessarily call this lyrical writing, but there are so many great quotes that I need to go back and actually annotate this book with a physical copy. I don't have a physical copy. Need to get a physical copy. I also just so appreciated the representation in this book. This book is a little bit kind of historical in its vibes. Like its setting is almost like a Regency romance kind of feel. I don't think it is technically, but it kind of has that Victorian setting where you have your high society and, you know, balls and things like that. But inside that, we have almost every representation of romance and sexuality in this book. We have male-male romances, we have bi characters, we have sapphic romances. It's all in here and it's all so normalized. No one says anything against it. It's just normal. No one questions it. Everyone is just love who you love, and it's so beautiful in that way as well. So between the fairy tale feel that I was getting and the wonderful representation and just my love for the characters and wanting to root for them, I definitely gave this book 5 stars. I will say for a cozy, there are actually quite a bit of stakes, especially in the second half of this book. So if you like a cozy with a little bit higher stakes, this one has that as well. And honestly, I've been feeling quite slumpy, and did cozy fantasy get me out of my slump? I think we can definitely say that I like cozy fantasy. This was a great test of cozy fantasy, and I can't wait to read more. I definitely need to pick up more because I haven't been buying cozy fantasy because I didn't know if I liked it. So I did just get The Spell Shop, which I'm very excited to read next month. And I also think I'm going to pick up Can't Spell Treason Without Tea because I've been seeing that everywhere. But if you have cozy fantasy recommendations, could you leave them down in the comments? Because this is a newer genre to me and I really want to lean into it, especially this fall. I feel like cozy fantasy and fall just like go together so perfectly. A big thank you to Kirsty for doing this collab with me. If you haven't watched Kirsty's video yet, it is linked down in the description box below. Go run, go watch it, give a like, a follow, all those things. Please like, comment, and subscribe over here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.